Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I missed this morning's presentations, unfortunately, but the first thing that people told me when I walked in was just beware of the trains and speak up. So I guess I'm here in two roles today. One is as president of ISBA. The second is general manager of Coca-Cola in the UK and Ireland. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time on both of those roles today, and then just come back a little bit at the end to the relationship between ISBA and the IPA. There you go, just on cue. So I guess, you know, I've been at Coke for 7 years. I've been general manager for the last 2. It couldn't really be a better time to be GM for Coke in the UK. You know, the Olympics just around the corner. Coke's the longest running sponsor of the Games. 84 years we've been the sponsor, a continuous sponsor of the Olympic movement. And in fact, if you do the maths, you know, the last time the Games came to London, 1948, we're the only sponsor who was there in 1948 that's still there in 2012. If you think about it, we're into kind of hard times now, recessionary times. 1948 was very different. For Coke to be the sponsor in 1948, actually the government had to lift sugar rationing so that we could actually provide product to the game. So hard times then, recessionary times now. I guess Coke has been a sponsor for that length of time, and our objective always is to try and learn from each of the games that we participate with. And the goal is to try and create a stronger business for the years to come as a result of our connection with the Olympic movement. For us to do that, we can do a lot of the work ourselves because we have, you know, a strong relationship with the Olympic movement. We have a team of people in Atlanta who focus purely on the relationship with the Olympics. But also we can do it because we have a great set of agency partners who, each time the Games comes to a different market, bring some new thinking, some new thoughts, some creative insight to what we do as a business that allows us really to maximize our consumer connections. And if you're in a business like Coke, managing and maximizing the connection that we make with consumers, particularly young people, is really at the heart of our business. So if I think about the Olympics as a business, I think of it in 3 ways. I think, how do we connect with young people? I think of it as, how do we create a more sustainable business as a manufacturing business in the UK? And I think about it, for the first time, I think, we're increasingly thinking about what legacy we leave behind the Games from the activity that we do. So if I just touch on each of those very briefly, connecting with young people is clearly a core part of our business. It's a core consumer group for us as a business. And we're doing that really in 3 key ways. The first is through a program which we ran at the back end of last year, the start of this year, called Future Flames. And Future Flames was about identifying inspirational young people in communities and giving 1,000 of those people the chance to run with the Olympic torch through their community. We had thousands and thousands of applications of people who were nominating their friends, young men and women who were nominating their friends for doing something really special in their local community, whether it's sport or music or community service. And for those young people, you know, 1,000 of them running with the torch through their own community is going to be such a huge deal for them. You know, the young man in Birmingham who raised £12,000 in the last 5 years for Birmingham Children's Hospital, he gets to run down the street where he lives carrying the torch as a beacon of, I guess, the best that we could find of British youth. So we do that through Future Flames. We also do it through a relationship we have with a national charity called Street Games. Street Games targets underprivileged communities across our major cities and provides sporting opportunities for young people in those communities. And having a connection with Coke, which is a cool brand for young people, is a big, big plus for a charity like Street Games. It allows them to draw more teens and young men and women into their sporting occasions and really, really maximize the ability of some of those young people to participate in sport in a way that they could never normally do. The final way we touch young people through our Olympics campaign is through what we've got running now, the campaign we have running right now, Move to the Beat, which is our relationship with Mark Ronson, music producer Mark Ronson, KTB, and a whole series of music artists. And through that campaign, we seek to connect sport through the Olympics with that other great passion point for young people, which is music. So we want to reach out and touch these consumers and consumers of the future. We want to create fans. We want to create people who love our brand and will always love our brand. That's what we do as a business. But we also want to make our business stronger for the future in other ways. And a key area for that is the way that we are approaching our sustainability agenda. So just a simple example of that, we try and put recycled plastic in all of our bottles. But there's a total shortage of recycled plastic in the UK. We just can't get enough to put in our packaging. So as part of our Olympic plans, we've actually built our own recycling facility. So we're going to recycle all of our own bottles from the Games, all 20 million of them that will be sold during Games time, and they'll all go back into Coke bottles of the future. And the only way that we can move forward on things like recycling and our sustainability agenda is by building our own facility, which we've done. The final important area for us from a Games perspective is just to understand the legacy that we leave behind. It's relatively easy for us to measure most of the benefits, most of the hard benefits of a sponsorship like the Games. It's much more difficult to understand if the things we did left any lasting legacy at all. So we've partnered with a think tank called Demos. Their job is to try and help us understand if through the partnership with Street Games, through our recycling work, if we make any lasting impact on the communities in which we operate. It's a first for us because it's not something we've tried to do before, and we don't think any other sponsor has done it either. But it's, I think, an indication of how businesses like mine are changing, and the direction of our thinking is changing, which is it's not enough just to do the sponsorship. You actually have to try and be seen to do the right thing and then try and measure whether or not you're doing the right thing in communities. So if that's the Olympics from a Coke perspective, I guess I'll turn now and just talk a little bit about ISBA and about what it's like for advertisers, given the shift that we see in our advertising investments, specifically to digital, which I know has been a big focus of the conversation this morning. For advertisers, it's an opportunity for sure, and it's also a big challenge. So it can be a bit uncomfortable, the shift to digital. The reason it can be a bit uncomfortable is because we need to be seen and we need to act responsibly as an industry in what we do on digital. And it's not always easy to do that given the pace of change. The pace of change means that as advertisers, we are learning things almost at the same time as the agencies who we have relied upon to guide us in the past. You know, sometimes what you learn tomorrow is what you talk to your clients about today. So we are, in a sense, learning together. And that creates some pressures and some tensions. It also creates a risk, which is about what's the long-term impact of what we're doing. And it creates some real challenges in terms of understanding the benefits of what we're doing, what the real measures of success are for us when we invest in digital. And if I look back in my own business at the last half a dozen campaigns that we run, I would really struggle to identify a consistent set of measures and metrics that we have used across all of those campaigns to indicate whether or not they're working. And that's quite an uncomfortable position to be in if you're spending millions of pounds on a marketing campaign, not being clear about what the benefits have been. Now, clearly, the UK has embraced digital pretty much like no other country on earth. You know, there's 30 million active Facebook people, there's 10 million Twitter accounts. Last year, internet advertising spend increased by 25%, and that's not a new trend. The big plus from digital is that it allows brand owners to have a genuine dialogue with consumers, something which we're not able to do through most traditional mediums. It also allows us to learn about consumers, and it allows us, therefore, to have an opportunity to build a deeper brand loyalty with our consumers. And that has a huge value to businesses like mine and to advertisers in general. It requires thought in how we do it, it requires investment, and actually it requires a bit of bravery. And that's a strange word to use, you might think. But it does require some bravery to let go a bit. If you've spent 126 years building a brand like Coca-Cola, it's pretty uncomfortable to let anybody else have freedom for how that brand is expressed. Now, if I take our Facebook page just as an example, we have 41 million fans. We have more fans on our brand page than any other brand. That's something that Coke is very focused on. We had about 1 million fans every 15 days. That's a lot of people. It was started in 2008. It wasn't started by Coca-Cola. It was started by 2 young men in the US who loved Coca-Cola. That's where it came from. That's the genesis of our page on Facebook. At the end of the first year, that Facebook page had 1.2 million fans. And at that point, we were offered the chance to take the page over, to take over the site. And we haven't done it. So since 2008, we still haven't taken over our Facebook page. We liked what the fans were doing on the page. And as a brand owner, that's quite a brave thing to do, quite a challenging thing to do. We liked what they were doing on the page, so rather than take it over, we offered to help. So it's controlled and it's run by fans of Coca-Cola. We provide input, we provide stories or videos or virals, but they control what goes on the site. And in that way, what we've sought to do is to create a community of fans who are actually interested and engaged in our brand. Because the value of having that interest and engagement, which is alive every day, is huge. You know, people really engage with your brand, not because you're talking to them, but because they're actually engaged with the brand in a meaningful way. Now, at ISBA, if I think back then to the role that ISBA plays, you know, we believe that whilst the digital space is new, it doesn't need to be a lawless wilderness for brand owners. Because as brand owners, we have to be constantly seen to be acting and marketing in a responsible way. Stakeholders, NGOs, the government, they are all interested in what we do. And the bigger the brand, the more interested those stakeholders are in what we do. So the overarching principle at ISBA is that we have to maintain and enhance consumer trust in our brands, whatever we do. This allows us, as an industry, to collaborate together, but also to take decisive and effective self-regulatory action where we need to. And the government at the minute seems very willing to partner with us, both in this area and in other areas like the responsibility deal, which has been important in recent months to my business. If I give a simple example of that, the ASA remit being extended online from games and display to manufacturers' websites, I think initially caused some concern amongst manufacturers and brand owners. What's actually happened? Well, there was an initial spike in complaints, but the number of complaints subsided very quickly. Why did it subside very quickly? It subsided very quickly because brand owners either proved that what they'd put on their site was right, or they changed an inaccurate message that was on there. So we acted in a responsible way through the ASA. There are 2 other areas which I think are high on the ISBA agenda for responsibility and at the close to the heart of advertisers in general. The first is marketing to children, which, as you know, is a particular passion point for the Prime Minister, who set up the Bailey Review. Now, ISBA was involved in the Bailey Review. Our view as advertisers through ISBA is that the recommendations from the Bailey Review were appropriate and they were sensible. You know, it was a good process and had a good outcome. So that's the first, I guess, responsibility area that I would mention is marketing to children. The other, which I think is the more pressing issue for 2012, is online behavioural advertising, and specifically the risks which are posed by the EU e-privacy regulation. it's a really important area if you think where our marketing dollars are going. It's really important that we understand this area. It's important because we have to balance two conflicting areas. The first is clear concerns around e-privacy. And I think all of us in the room could understand those as individuals. And we have to balance that against having a rewarding consumer experience and allowing us to grow our business through digital. The ISBA view is that transparency is key. So consumers need to be told what data is held and who holds it, and they need to be given a chance to opt out. You know, that's a clear perspective. What's really encouraging for me is that if we look across the whole of our industry, we see all of the bodies involved in our industry generally moving in the same direction on this particular issue, which I think is a real hot issue for us over the next 12 months. So, aware that the next course is coming, I'll close just with a couple of thoughts. The first is, it's a really exciting time to be involved in Coke. I know some of you in the room are involved with Coke as agencies, and we really value the support and help that you give us, the insight and the creative ideas which come from you, which wouldn't come from us internally. I think as an industry, ISBA values very strongly the relationship which we have with the IPA. We see it as very key. Bottom line is, I think we succeed or fail together because most of the issues which face us are common. So it's important that we make the relationship work. I think the good pitch process which was worked through by both organisations, just as an example of what we can do together, has been really helpful. The bottom line, though, I think, is that the closer agencies and their clients get, the more productive the relationship becomes. And you know, it's the responsibility of you guys, I guess, in the room to try and build the creativity, to bring that creative energy to the relationship so that we can all build stronger businesses over the years to come. Thank you very much.